Imagine being out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. No land in sight, just endless waves, a wooden boat, and your own willpower keeping you alive. Most men would never dare. Most would turn back. But one man, Frank Samuelsen, decided to challenge the impossible, to row across the Atlantic Ocean with nothing but his strength, his courage, and his refusal to surrender. Frank Samuelsen was born in Norway in 1870, in a small fishing village where survival depended on grit. The sea was both friend and enemy. It fed families, but it also took lives without warning. As a boy, Frank grew up watching men wrestle with storms, their faces weathered by salt and wind. When he was just 16 years old, he left Norway and sailed to America in search of a better life. He settled in New Jersey, working as a farmer and a mechanic. Life was not easy. Frank wasn't wealthy, nor was he famous. He was an ordinary man, but with an extraordinary hunger. Inside him burned the spirit of adventure, the kind of restless energy that couldn't be tamed by fields or machinery. He dreamed of proving that courage, not circumstance, defines a man. At the dawn of the 1890s, the world was obsessed with feats of endurance. Explorers were racing to climb mountains, to cross deserts, to reach the poles. Newspapers told stories of heroes who pushed the limits of human endurance. Frank felt a calling, but what could a simple farmer from New Jersey do? One day he met George Harbo, another Norwegian immigrant with the same wild hunger for adventure. Over long talks, often late into the night, they dared to imagine something unthinkable, rowing across the Atlantic Ocean. People laughed at them. Impossible, they said. You'll die before you reach halfway. And perhaps those voices were right. The Atlantic wasn't just water. It was a graveyard of ships, a vast and merciless expanse. Storms could swallow men whole. And Frank and George had no sponsors, no wealthy backers, no modern equipment, only a wooden boat they built themselves, and their own muscle to drive the oars. Their families begged them not to go. Friends shook their heads. Even experienced sailors warned them, this is suicide. And Frank, for a moment, even he doubted himself. He would lie awake at night, staring at the ceiling, asking, am I insane? Am I throwing my life away? But deep inside, a voice whispered, if no one has done it before, then that's exactly why you must. Frank realized that life is not measured by safety, it is measured by the courage to chase what others fear. He and George shook hands and made a pact. No matter how hard it got, they would not turn back. In June of 1896, they set out from New York in their small, 18-foot boat named Fox. No engine, no sails, just two men and two pairs of oars. As the skyline of New York faded into the horizon, Frank felt the weight of the unknown press upon him. Ahead lay 3,000 miles of uncertainty. But behind him lay a life of mediocrity. He knew there was no return. The journey tested every fiber of their being. Day after day, they rowed. 12 hours on, 12 hours off. Their hands blistered, their muscles screamed, their backs bent under the strain. Salt water stung their wounds. The sun burned their skin, and the waves punished them without mercy. At night, the ocean was a black void. The silence was broken only by the crash of waves and the creaking of wood. Frank would sometimes look at George and whisper, are we really going to make it? And George would answer, keep rowing. Storms nearly capsized their fragile boat. Waves taller than houses crashed down on them, threatening to swallow them whole. Food ran low. Their bodies grew thin. Every mile was paid for in blood, sweat, and tears, but still they rowed. On the 35th day, their boat was nearly overturned by a monstrous storm. Frank clung to the oars as icy water filled the boat. He thought of home. He thought of death. And then, in that darkest moment, something inside him broke free. This ocean will not take me, he shouted into the storm. Not today. The will of two ordinary men became stronger than the fury of the Atlantic. After 55 grueling days, on August 1, 1896, Frank Samuelsen and George Harbo rowed into the port of Le Havre, France. The impossible had been done. Two immigrants, with no fame, no money, and no support, had rowed across the Atlantic Ocean, something no one had ever achieved before. Crowds gathered, newspapers exploded with headlines, and suddenly, the world knew their names. Frank and George became symbols of endurance, courage, and the unshakable will of the human spirit. Their record rowing across the Atlantic in 55 days would stand unbeaten for over 100 years. Frank Samuelsen's story is not just about the ocean, it's about life itself. We all face storms. We all face waves that try to drown us, whether it's failure, rejection, or fear. But Frank proved something timeless. You don't need wealth, privilege, or fame to achieve greatness. What you need is the courage to take the first step and the determination to never give up. Remember this, the ocean is vast, but so is your strength. If two men with nothing but wooden oars could conquer the Atlantic, imagine what you can conquer if you refuse to surrender. Thank you for watching this story of courage and perseverance. If Frank Samuelsen's journey inspired you, share this video with someone who needs a reminder that nothing is impossible. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell because more powerful stories are on the way. And always remember, no matter how rough the waters, keep rowing.